This is a national emergency. Our work here will ensure a peace mankind has never seen. The world will remember this day.
This is arguably the most important story of our time.
The stakes really couldn't be any higher.
It's profound, but it's told in a very human way.
Everything Chris Nolan has done has been a prelude to this.
This is not a film, this is an experience. It is a heart-in-your-mouth thriller.
I've been interested in Oppenheimer's story for a long time. At some point, I learned this key piece of information that in the lead up to the Trinity test, they were dealing with the very small possibility that when they pushed that button, they would set fire to the atmosphere of the Earth and destroy the entire planet. And yet, they pushed that button. I wanted to take the audience into that extraordinary moment in human history.
All America's industrial might and scientific innovation connected here. A secret laboratory.
Cillian playing Oppenheimer was the centerpiece of the film, but I knew that he was going to need the most extraordinary ensemble around him.
Let's go recruit some scientists.
The people involved in the Manhattan Project were charismatic individuals. They're very talented.
The world that Oppenheimer inhabits is filled with rock star scientists. And I think because we have all these fantastic actors, you really buy that.
It felt like I was playing sports with some of the best athletes. Every single person has come to set knowing that they have been hired because somewhere along the line, Chris thought that you did a good job. And this goes for crew as well.
Action! My preference is to always do things in camera as much as possible. It sets a big challenge for every department to actually bring the reality of a thing there for the actors.
Every crew member on this film has to adjust their work for the IMAX screen.
IMAX can contain 18K resolution per frame, which is by far more than any digital camera. It gets thrown up on a gigantic screen, and the moment you watch it, it's very evident. The quality is unprecedented.
This is a story of America in the 20th century, so I think it can be painted on that big of a canvas, and what better way to do that but with IMAX cameras.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
I always try to use real locations as much as possible. With location shooting or sets, the more things can just be real, the better they're going to feel to the audience.
There's almost no studio work on this film. Everything is location.
The sets were built in such a way that they felt incredibly authentic.
We built our Los Alamos at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, which is along the same mountain range that Los Alamos proper sits on. This was very important, and I based all of this on research. We built all of these buildings 360. We want it to feel like you are right there, you are in this is happening, this is real. This isn't a backlot.
It's just the most transporting thing, you know, when you're there and it just looks exactly like Los Alamos 1940s must have looked, and you know that no detail has been overlooked.
You know, we also shot in a huge amount of the real locations. We shot in Oppenheimer's house, in Los Alamos. We shot in Princeton.
Walking through Princeton, it's really very funny because people, you know, they're walking around, they go,
shooting those scenes, playing the characters who really had versions of these events happen there, you just get a real charge out of it, you know?
This is a matter of life and death. But I can perform this miracle.
When you do Chris's movies, things that when you read a script you normally would think would be visual effects, you know that you're going to be doing this stuff practically.
They had to film the world of quantum physics. Their whole unit was one big science project. I was daily very jealous.
it's kind of back to the old days.
We did a lot of experimentation. We came up with some very interesting analog methods of how to approach this, all of which was leading to the Trinity test, which had to feel nightmarish and terrifying in a way that computer graphics never really is. What we were able to get into the finished film, to me, is extraordinarily beautiful, but also very frightening.
Working with this whole team was such a great camaraderie, and with the commonality of we are going to get this in camera. I love Chris's dedication to that.
It really speaks to Chris and the way he directs.
All of the energy goes around the camera. Like, we're all here to do the same thing.
Chris makes films for theaters, for movie-going audiences. You know, so you want to see that as it's designed to be seen.
Watching this very different sort of film on that big screen, it sort of makes you gasp. You're right in their experience.
This is, I think, a definitive moment in the history of modern filmmaking. Do yourself a favor and go see this on as big a screen as you can.
With the sound design and the score and the emotionality of it, this is an unforgettable, unmissable experience in a theater.
You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves.
We made Oppenheimer on the largest scale possible because the idea is to come and experience this. His story is monumental and epic and extraordinary. It really has to be seen on the big screen to be believed.
As soon as I read the script, I'm putting the pieces together in my mind. For Oppenheimer, we had a meeting and we started talking about different approaches and different types of musical ideas.
The film score grew very organically and very gradually from the smallest elements. And I had no preconceptions about the music for the film. Sometimes you have an idea for the soundscape of the world or the rhythm of it, and sometimes you don't. And in this case, all I had that I gave Ludwig was the idea of basing the score on the violin.
There's so much in the performance of the violin. Within seconds, you can go from something beautiful to something completely horrifying.
And there's a tension to the sound in a way that I think fits the highly strung intellect and emotion of Robert Oppenheimer very well.
And that's just the organic part of it. That's just the strings. And then what comes on later is the production and the synthesizers.
I think every process of scoring is different if it's to be tailored correctly to the demands of a new project. And this was a type of film I hadn't made before, and it was a type of music that I hadn't worked with before.
A lot of things you do in the beginning is about experimenting and see where you can take things.
We would take his experiments and we would put them to picture and edit them and try different things and show it to Ludwig, and he would go and bring more things to the table.
Oppenheimer is a visual masterpiece. You know, I never seen that kind of intimate portrayal of a character on IMAX. That's the 6-note Oppenheimer theme. I felt like this movie was really pushing the boundaries in so many different fields. So I wanted to see how we can do that with music as well.
I think Ludwig's work on the film is both deeply personal and historically expansive. I think it really achieves an enormous amount of the effect of drawing the audience into the emotional dilemmas of the characters. I think he's really put together a very remarkable score.
This is a movie you celebrate IMAX cinema. Why should audiences see this on the biggest screen possible?
Well, it's, you know, the amazing thing about IMAX is the visual quality of the image is just second to none, and it's truly an immersive experience on that big screen, and nothing like anything you could get at home.
And you've assembled one of the most stellar casts I've ever seen. I saw the movie last night. Every single one of them gives an incredible performance. What made this the movie to populate even some of the smaller roles with Oscar winners, Oscar nominees, some of the greatest actors in Hollywood?
Well, the scale and excitement of this movie is driven by its cast. That's true of every movie to a degree, but with this movie more than most. This is a film about people coming together to try and pull something off against seemingly impossible odds. So we needed Cillian Murphy at the heart of this as Oppenheimer. but we needed to surround him with the greatest actors that we could find, right down to the very smallest roles. There are no composite characters in the film. Everybody from the history is represented as they need to be. And so there's a large cast, a really wonderful ensemble around an excellent central performance.
And having just watched the movie and still recovering from the ending, that's all I'll say for the moment, what are you hoping audiences take away from their experience of watching Oppenheimer?
Well, I think that the thing that Chris does really well with his movies is he sort of makes films that really live with people after they've left the theatre. And so I think that, you know, this film gives people a lot to chew on, a lot to think about, and it's a little bit of a cautionary tale, shall we say.
I'll ask you the same question, Chris. What are you hoping audiences take away from this?
Well, you try not to be didactic. The film doesn't have a specific message. It's just a great story, one of the greatest stories that I know of. And so we've tried to do it justice. And I think part of the appeal of the story, what makes it dramatic, is that told right, and we've done our best, when the film finishes, there'll be a lot of interesting questions, a lot of resonances.
Movie number 6 for you with Christopher Nolan. Tell me, well, how did you react when he came to you and said, I want you to play this role?
I mean, I had to sit down for a minute. But I was thrilled. You know, any actor in the world would want to work with Chris. He's one of the greats, one of the greatest directors we have in the world, and I feel privileged to have worked with him so much, you know.
Now, obviously, he's a huge fan of IMAX. If you could recommend why an audience see this on the biggest screen possible, what would you say?
Well, because I think it's less of a film and more of an experience. It's like Chris likes to describe it as 3D without the glasses, you know.
And in terms of the importance of the movie, I was still reeling from watching it last night and the ending, but what do you hope audiences take away from their experience watching Oppenheimer?
Well, first and foremost, I think they need to be entertained. I think that movie does it in spades. And then I think it asks a lot of questions, some of the big kind of, you know, ethical, moral, paradoxical questions that there is. And my 15-year-old kid saw it and he was knocked out and was very, very curious about all that time in history and its relevance to today, you know.
And what was your reaction when you got the call going, would you like to be in Christopher Nolan's new movie, Oppenheimer?
Well, it was just to meet him. At which point I was like, if you have a jetpack, just like put it on and run, like go to the meeting. And he's so English, Chris, and so casual that we talked for like 2 hours. And then he was like, right, so, you know, it's for the character of Kitty, if you'd like to do it. And I was like, is that an offer? Like, it was just so cash and funny, and the script was heart racing. I mean, it was a yes before I'd read it, you know.
And in terms of the spectacle, obviously it's shot in IMAX. Why would you recommend audiences see this on the biggest screen possible?
Well, because he made it for the biggest screen possible. I mean, every detail was, he sweat bullets for this film. And the whole thing is just supposed to be a fully immersive experience. It's more than a film. This is a heart-racing experience. And to get the full kidnap of it, you've got to go see it massive, you know?
Final question. Is there a message you think audiences should be taking from their experience of watching Oppenheimer?
No, I mean, I don't think Chris makes films that are didactic, you know, didactic in any way. I feel he likes the open-endedness of asking really profound questions but sort of not giving you the answers. I want people to metabolize it together. I want you go for a drink, talk about it. You'll need to, and that's the best part.
How do you react when you get a call saying, do you want to be in Oppenheimer?
Well, first of all, yeah, huge fan of Chris, but also I don't know why I've always been fascinated with this event and the history around it, and then to be transported on IMAX cameras to where you're going to feel like you've been brought back to when it happened. And I think as people are seeing the film and saying really what an achievement it is, the fact that it's also just so riveting. Like I remember when you used to see movies that were important movies, but also gave you the full immersion in cinema. So it's kind of both.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie. I'm still reeling from those final scenes, that's all I'll say on that. But what do you hope audiences take away from their experience of watching Oppenheimer?
That a summer blockbuster can also be a very evolved piece of storytelling, I've done all kinds of movies, and I love all kinds of movies. I've never been in a film that is this big and this small, because it's something we're all really thinking about. And again, you know, Chris Nolan takes it as an assumption that the audience is intelligent, and I appreciate that.
It's a powerful piece of cinema. What are you hoping audiences take away from their experience of watching this?
It's an amazing movie. All of his movies, he's never didactic about it. He really wants the audience to bring what they bring and to discuss. You know, they're very thought-provoking movies that he makes. So I think that's either Robert or Killian, I think. Oh, it's Chris. But I think that's what's great about his films is he loves his audience, you know what I mean? He really trusts them and wants them to be talking about it afterwards, and he always makes things that provoke that kind of dialogue, which is very cool.
And finally, why would you suggest people see this on the biggest screen possible?
Because that's how Chris Nolan made it to be seen, and he shot it with that in mind. Every single detail he put in was so that people can see it in its largest possible format. They invented black and white IMAX for sequences in this movie. I mean, it's just, that's how you should see it if you can. Yeah.